Ambassador Tejo stood on Earth's soil for the first time. His 4 long limbs touched the ground gently. He looked around with his 3 large eyes, taking in everything. Earth was different from his home world. The sky was blue, not purple. The air smelled of strange plants and machines. A group of humans waited for him. Some wore fancy clothes with pins and medals. Others wore military uniforms with weapons at their sides. Tejo noticed how many guns were present. On his world, such weapons were rare, even among security forces. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," said a woman who stepped forward. "I am Dr. Hannah Kim, representing Earth's United Nations." Her smile seemed genuine, but Tejo couldn't help counting the armed guards positioned around the landing area. 6 visible security personnel, all watching him closely. Their hands rested near their weapons. "Thank you for your welcome," Tejo replied, bowing slightly in the manner his advisors had suggested. "The Galactic Concord extends peaceful greetings to humanity." Dr. Kim guided him toward a waiting vehicle. "We have arranged comfortable quarters for you. Tonight, there will be a formal reception where you can meet our world leaders." As they rode to the diplomatic compound, Tejo observed more signs of Earth's military presence. Vehicles with mounted weapons stood at intersections. Aircraft patrolled overhead. Even the civilian buildings had security checkpoints. The diplomat compound itself was surrounded by a high wall with scanning equipment. Guards checked everyone who entered, even high-ranking officials. That evening, Tejo dressed in his ceremonial robes for the reception. The grand hall was filled with humans in their finest clothes. Music played softly while servers carried trays of food and drinks. But even here, in this peaceful setting, Tejo noted the armed personnel at each doorway. Small cameras watched from the ceiling. Metal detectors stood at every entrance. Tejo mingled with Earth's leaders. He spoke with politicians, scientists, and business people. All were friendly, but all seemed to accept the heavy security as normal. During dinner, Tejo sat next to Dr. Kim. The table was covered with Earth foods, some familiar, others strange to him. He tried each dish politely. "This meat is quite good," he said, using his eating utensils carefully. "It's called beef," Dr. Kim explained, "from cattle raised in the western regions." Tejo nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Finally, during a quiet moment, he turned to Dr. Kim. "Dr. Kim, something has been puzzling me since my arrival," he said softly. "I must ask about it." "Of course, Ambassador. Open communication is why you're here." Tejo chose his words carefully. "Your planet has achieved peace. Your nations no longer fight each other. You have one government that speaks for all humans. Yet everywhere I look, I see weapons, guards with guns, security systems, military vehicles. Why are your people so heavily armed when you have peace among yourselves?" The table grew quiet. Other human delegates exchanged glances. Some looked uncomfortable, others thoughtful. Dr. Kim set down her glass slowly. "That's a very insightful question, Ambassador," she said. Her eyes met those of General Park across the table, who gave a small nod. "The answer is not simple. It's tied to our history, our experiences, and our understanding of the universe." "I would like to understand," Tejo said. Dr. Kim dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "Well, I could explain our perspective, but I think it would be better to show you." "Show me." "Yes. Would you be willing to visit some significant places on Earth tomorrow? I believe seeing will help you understand better than any explanation I could give." Tejo was intrigued. This was why he had come to Earth, to understand these strange humans who had developed so differently from other species in the Concord. "I would be honored," he replied. "Excellent," Dr. Kim said. "We'll leave in the morning." Later that night, in his quarters, Tejo recorded his observations for the Concord Council. Humans maintain significant armed forces despite claiming peaceful intentions, he dictated. Their security measures are extensive. Every important building, every gathering of officials is heavily guarded. They seem constantly prepared for attack, though they have no enemies on their planet. He paused, considering. This behavior is puzzling. No other species in the Concord maintained such military readiness during peacetime. Even the Viraldi, who suffered civil war for centuries, disarmed once they achieved planetary peace. Tejo walked to the window. Outside, under bright lights, he could see guards patrolling the compound perimeter. Dr. Kim has offered to explain their reasoning tomorrow. I sense there is something important to learn here, something that may help the Concord understand human psychology better. He turned off the recording device and prepared for sleep. As he lay down, he wondered what Dr. Kim would show him. What explanation could justify such military presence in a peaceful society? The humans were a contradiction. They spoke of peace while carrying weapons. They talked of friendship while watching for threats. They smiled warmly while keeping their guards close. Tomorrow, perhaps, he would begin to understand why. And that understanding might change everything the Concord thought they knew about this strange species called humans. As sleep approached, one last thought crossed Tejo's mind. What if the humans knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't? What if their caution wasn't paranoia but wisdom? He would have to wait until tomorrow to find out. The morning sun shone on the sleek diplomatic vehicle as it carried Ambassador Tejo and Dr. Kim away from the city. Tejo watched the landscape change from tall buildings to open countryside. He noticed that even here, miles from any important location, military vehicles occasionally passed on the road. Where are we going first? Tejo asked. To a place that helps explain who we are, Dr. Kim replied. It's called the National War Memorial. The car stopped at a vast green space. Rows of stone tablets stretched across a perfectly maintained lawn. Each stone had many names carved into it. Humans walked slowly among the stones. Some placed flowers at the base of certain tablets. What is this place? Tejo asked, his three eyes blinking in sequence. Each name on these stones represents a human who died in what we call the Second World War, Dr. Kim explained. It was a global conflict that ended about 80 years ago. Tejo moved closer to one stone. Names covered every inch of its surface. How many names are here? On this memorial, about 58,000. But this represents only soldiers from our country who died in this one war. The total death count from that conflict was over 70 million across all nations. Tejo stepped back, shocked. 70 million. That's more than the entire population of 3 Concord worlds combined. Yes, and this was just one of many wars in our history. They walked slowly through the memorial. Dr. Kim explained how the war had spread across the planet, how nations fought each other with increasingly deadly weapons. But why? Tejo asked. What could be worth such loss? Power, land, resources, ideology. Dr. Kim sighed. Sometimes the reasons seemed important at the time. Looking back, few of them were worth the cost. Their next stop was a large building called the War History Museum. Inside, displays showed the evolution of human weapons through time. These are the earliest weapons, Dr. Kim said, pointing to simple stone tools and wooden spears from thousands of years ago. They moved through the museum, seeing swords, bows, early guns, cannons, and eventually tanks, bombers, and missiles. This is what we call a nuclear warhead, Dr. Kim explained at one display, showing a large metal device. At one point, we had enough of these to destroy all life on Earth many times over. Tejo's skin paled slightly. You created weapons that could destroy your own world. Yes, for decades, major nations pointed these weapons at each other, ready to launch at a moment's notice. That seems, Tejo searched for the right word, insane. Dr. Kim nodded. Looking back, most humans would agree with you, but fear and distrust can make people do irrational things. They continued through the museum. The last section showed modern peacekeeping forces and international cooperation. But you've moved beyond this, Tejo noted. Your planet has been unified for decades. You have one global government now. Yes, replied Dr. Kim. But we remember what we're capable of. and what others might be capable of too. They left the museum and drove to their next destination. Tejo was quiet, processing what he had learned. The human capacity for violence exceeded anything in Concord records. Even the most aggressive Concord species had never created weapons that could destroy their own planets. The vehicle stopped at a large facility surrounded by security barriers. Guards checked their credentials before allowing them to enter. "This is one of our defense research centers," Dr. Kim explained as they walked inside. "Colonel Do-Yum Park will show us around." A man in a military uniform greeted them. "Welcome, Ambassador Tejo. I'm honored to meet you." Colonel Park led them through the facility. He showed them laboratories where scientists worked on various projects. In one room, a demonstration was prepared. "This is our newest shield technology," Colonel Park explained, activating a control panel. A transparent dome of energy formed over a small platform. Another researcher fired what looked like a weapon at the shield. The energy blast dissipated harmlessly. "We've developed defenses against most known weapon types," Colonel Park said, "including some we believe could come from off-world." Tejo's three eyes widened. "You've been preparing for extraterrestrial threats before you even knew we existed." "We considered it a possibility," Colonel Park said. "Looking at our own history, we thought it wise to prepare for various scenarios." They moved to another laboratory where researchers demonstrated non-lethal weapons designed to incapacitate without killing. "Our goal is to resolve conflicts peacefully," Colonel Park explained. "But if that fails, we want options that minimize harm while protecting our people." As they finished the tour, Colonel Park summarized their approach. "We maintain peace through readiness. We hope for friendship but prepare for hostility." On the journey back to the diplomatic quarters, Tejo was unusually quiet. The day's revelations had given him much to consider. "Your species thinks differently than mine," he finally said. Dr. Kim looked at him curiously. "How so?" "The Concord races evolved in environments where cooperation was necessary for survival. Our histories have few large-scale conflicts. When we achieved space travel, we naturally formed alliances." "That sounds peaceful," Dr. Kim said. "It is. But seeing your preparations today, I wonder if we've been naive." "What do you mean?" Tejo's long fingers tapped thoughtfully on his knee. "The Concord assumes all intelligent life will be peaceful and cooperative. We have minimal defenses. We've never seriously considered that other species might be hostile. And humans always consider that possibility," Dr. Kim said. "Yes. Your caution seemed excessive to me yesterday. Now I'm not so certain." As they arrived back at the diplomatic compound, Tejo thanked Dr. Kim for the educational day. "Tomorrow, there's one more thing I'd like to share with you," Dr. Kim said. "Something that may help explain our perspective even further." That night, Tejo sent another message to the Concord Council. His report was very different from the previous days. "Human military readiness stems from a history of conflict more severe than anything in Concord records," he dictated. "Their preparation is not aggression, but a lesson learned through suffering. I believe we have much to learn from them." He paused, then added, "Request permission to share limited Concord security information with Earth representatives. There are matters we must discuss urgently." Tejo was preparing for sleep when his communication device lit up with the distinctive blue glow of a priority message. He touched the screen, and the holographic image of Council Leader Sora appeared before him. "Ambassador Tejo, we have received your reports," she said. Her normally calm face looked worried. "The Council is concerned by your observations about human military capacity." "I have more to report," Tejo said. "Their history of conflict is beyond anything in our records, but they seem to have moved past fighting each other. Their weapons now are for defense, not conquest." Sora's image flickered slightly. "We have reviewed our stellar charts based on your location data. There is something you must know." She paused. "The human solar system is located in what our ancestors classified as a red zone." Tejo felt a chill run through his body. "A red zone. Are you certain?" "Yes. The classification was made 12,000 years ago, and the region was marked to be avoided. We have forgotten why, until we checked the ancient records. What did you find? Evidence of aggressive species expansion in that sector. Our ancestors detected energy signatures consistent with large-scale conflict. They decided to steer Concord expansion in other directions. Tejo sat down heavily. So the humans evolved in a dangerous region of space. That might explain their defensive nature. Exactly, Sora said. The Council authorizes you to share this information with the human leaders. We need to know if they have encountered these aggressive forces. I will speak with them immediately, Tejo promised. After the call ended, Tejo requested an urgent meeting with Dr. Kim. Despite the late hour, she arrived at his quarters within 30 minutes. I apologize for the unusual timing, Tejo said as she entered. No apology needed, Dr. Kim replied. Diplomatic work doesn't follow normal hours. Tejo gestured to his seat. I've just received an important communication from the Concord High Council. I must share something with you. Dr. Kim sat down, her expression serious. I'm listening. My civilization has never faced serious external threats, Tejo began. Most species in the Concord evolved in carefully balanced ecosystems with minimal competition. When we developed space travel, we met other peaceful races. We formed alliances naturally. That sounds fortunate, Dr. Kim said. Yes, but it may have made us unprepared. Tejo's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of nervousness in his species. The Concord has just confirmed something significant. Your solar system sits in what we consider an unusually dangerous sector of space. We avoided this region for generations because of its volatility. Dr. Kim leaned forward, her eyes widening slightly. What are you saying? 12,000 years ago, our early space explorers detected evidence of conflict in this region. They recorded energy signatures consistent with large-scale space battles. The Concord decided to expand in other directions, away from the danger. So when you arrived and saw our military readiness, Dr. Kim began. I thought you were unnecessarily aggressive, Tejo finished. But now I wonder if you evolved with these defensive instincts because you needed them to survive. Understanding dawned on Dr. Kim's face. You think we're paranoid, but we've had to be prepared to survive. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the night sky. Ambassador, there's something I need to show you as well. Dr. Kim took a small device from her pocket and pressed her thumb against it. This is Dr. Hannah Kim, authorization Gamma 7 Epsilon. I need a secure link to Defense Command. A voice responded from the device. Authorization confirmed. Secure link established. This is Dr. Kim. I need access to the First Contact Archive. Files Omega through Tau. That requires presidential approval. Dr. Kim. The President authorized this earlier today. Confirmation code. North Star Rising. Confirmed. Preparing data transfer. Dr. Kim turned to Tejo. What I'm about to show you is known to fewer than 50 humans. Our highest classification level. A holographic display appeared between them. Dr. Kim touched several controls, opening files with complex security measures. Before we made official contact with the Concord, we had 3 previous encounters with non-human entities. All were hostile. The display showed images that made Tejo's skin pale. Ships of unfamiliar design. Weapons being fired. Damaged Earth vessels. The first encounter was 15 years ago, Dr. Kim explained. A small scout ship appeared near our Mars colony. It did not respond to communication attempts and opened fire on our outpost. We destroyed it in self-defense. She opened another file. 7 years ago, 3 larger vessels entered our system. They attacked our orbital platforms without warning. We managed to disable one and drive the others away. The final file showed the most recent encounter. 2 years ago, just before we detected the Concord's approach, a different type of ship attempted to deploy what our scientists identified as terraforming devices in our upper atmosphere. These would have made Earth uninhabitable for humans. We stopped them. Tejo stared at the evidence before him. "By the stars," he whispered. "You've been fighting a war we didn't even know existed." "We didn't know it was a war," Dr. Kim said. "We thought they might be isolated incidents. We had no context for understanding who these beings were or why they attacked us." "Did you capture any of them? Learn their origins?" "No. In each case, the ships were either destroyed or self-destructed before we could study them properly. We recovered some technology, but nothing that told us where they came from." Tejo's mind raced. "This changes everything. The Concord has existed for thousands of years without serious threats. We've grown complacent. Our defenses are minimal. And now you've made contact with us," Dr. Kim said. "A species that evolved in what you call a red zone and has already fought off 3 different alien threats." "Yes." Tejo stood up, his tall frame casting a long shadow in the room's dim light. "I must report this to the Council immediately. They need to understand the full situation." Dr. Kim nodded. "And I need to inform our leadership about the red zone classification. It confirms what some of our scientists have theorized, that Earth's location has made us a target." As they prepared to contact their respective governments, Tejo turned to Dr. Kim. "Yesterday, I questioned why humans maintained such military readiness during peace. Now I understand it wasn't paranoia. It was wisdom born from experience." "We hope for peace," Dr. Kim said. "But history has taught us to be prepared for anything else." "The Concord could learn much from humanity," Tejo said. "And perhaps we have knowledge that could help you identify the threats you faced." "An alliance would benefit us both," Dr. Kim agreed. As the night deepened, the human and the alien began planning how their civilizations might work together to face the dangers that lurked in the darkness between stars. The great hall of the Concord Assembly gleamed under the light of 3 suns. The walls made of polished crystal reflected colored patterns across the floor. 500 representatives from 120 different species sat in rising circular tiers. They had gathered on Luminaris, the central world of the Galactic Concord, to hear Ambassador Tejo's report. Tejo stood at the central speaking platform. His normally blue skin had taken on a deeper hue, showing his stress. Behind him, a small delegation of humans waited quietly. Dr. Kim stood with General Chunho and Admiral Summon. They wore formal Earth uniforms but no visible weapons, as was required in the assembly. "Honored representatives of the Concord," Tejo began, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the hall. 2 standard months ago, I was sent to Earth to establish diplomatic relations with humans. What I discovered there has changed my understanding of our place in the galaxy." He touched a control panel, and a large holographic map appeared above the assembly. It showed the spiral arms of the galaxy with the Concord worlds highlighted in blue. "For 12,000 cycles, we have expanded peacefully through the stars. We have met new species and welcomed them into our community. We have believed that intelligent life naturally seeks harmony." Tejo paused, then touched another control. A red area appeared on the map, far from the blue Concord worlds. This region was classified as a red zone by our ancestors. They detected energy signatures consistent with large-scale conflict and wisely chose to expand in other directions. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Most representatives had never heard of this classification. "Earth," Tejo continued, highlighting a small solar system in the red area, "evolved in this dangerous region. Humans developed in an environment where conflict was common. Their history reflects this. They fought many wars among themselves before achieving planetary unity. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. The concept of warfare between members of the same species was disturbing to many Concord races. But this harsh evolution gave humans something we lack: the ability to defend themselves against aggression." Tejo's voice grew stronger. "While we have enjoyed peace, Earth has faced threats from space. 3 separate attacks in the past 15 years. The holographic display changed to show images from Earth's classified files. Alien ships firing on human outposts, strange devices entering Earth's atmosphere. The humans successfully defended against these attacks. They captured technology that has allowed them to identify the aggressors. Tejo looked directly at the council leaders seated in the front row. Intelligence confirms a hostile force has been systematically expanding at our outer boundaries. The humans call them the Void Collective. They do not communicate or negotiate. They simply consume. The hall erupted in noise. Representatives turned to each other, speaking in dozens of languages. Some stood up in alarm. Others called for silence to hear more. Council leader Minho rose from his seat. His species was known for their calm demeanor, but even he seemed shaken. He raised a hand for quiet, and the hall gradually settled down. Ambassador Tejo, Minho said, his voice slow and measured. These are disturbing claims. What evidence do we have beyond human reports? The technology signatures match anomalies detected at our outer monitoring stations over the past cycle, Tejo replied. We ignored them because we had no context to understand their significance. And what would you have us do? Minho asked. The Concord has maintained peace for 12,000 cycles through diplomacy, not weapons. We have no standing military, no warships, no battle plans. The humans have agreed to join us and share their defensive expertise, Tejo replied. But we must act quickly. Earth's scientists believe the Void Collective will reach Concord space within 2 cycles. The assembly hall erupted in debate again. Representative Jihu of the Viridian world stood. We cannot militarize our peaceful coalition. This goes against everything the Concord stands for. I agree, added Representative Nari of the floating cities. And how can we trust these humans? By their own admission, they'd evolved as warriors. What if they use this threat to gain influence over us? Others voiced similar concerns. The idea of preparing for war was foreign to most Concord species. They had no cultural framework for understanding such concepts. Dr. Kim whispered something to Tejo. He nodded and raised his hands for attention. Representatives, please, he called over the noise. Dr. Kim asks permission to address the assembly. Council leader Minho considered this unusual request. Non-members rarely spoke before the full assembly. But these were unusual times. We will hear the human, Minho decided. Dr. Kim stepped forward. She was small compared to many of the alien representatives, but she stood straight and confident. Honored members of the Concord, she began. I understand your concerns. War is terrible. Weapons are dangerous. Military thinking can be frightening. She looked around the hall, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. Humans know this better than most. We fought ourselves for thousands of years before learning better ways. But sometimes preparation for conflict prevents conflict from happening. She gestured to the holographic display. The Void Collective targets worlds with resources and life energy. They consume, then move on. They have no concept of diplomacy because they don't see other life as equal to themselves. They see only food and materials. The hall was silent now. Every representative listened intently. We don't ask you to become warriors, Dr. Kim continued. We ask only that you allow us to help protect what you've built. A peaceful society deserves to be preserved. Representative Jihu stood again. And how do we know you won't take control once we depend on your protection? Admiral Soman stepped forward. Because Earth wishes to join the Concord as a full member, bound by the same laws and principles as all members, we will share our defensive knowledge but accept Concord oversight of all joint operations. Debate continued for hours. Representatives argued back and forth about the right approach. Many feared change. Others feared the humans. Some feared doing nothing. As the arguments grew more heated, Tejo moved to the center of the platform again. He raised his voice louder than he ever had before. I have seen Earth's history. Yes, humans can be violent, but they channel that capacity into protection. They faced what we haven't had to face, and now we need them. He pointed to the holographic display, now showing projections of Void Collective expansion. We can debate until the Void reaches our worlds, or we can act now. The choice is ours. The assembly fell silent. Council leader Minho rose slowly. We will vote tomorrow, he announced. Tonight, let each representative review the evidence and consult with their worlds. This may be the most important decision in Concord history. As the representatives filed out of the hall, Tejo turned to the human delegation. You made an impression, he said to Dr. Kim, but many still fear change. Fear is natural, she replied. Humans know a lot about fear, but we also know about courage. Let's hope the Concord finds theirs. Captain Jiwoo walked across the bridge of the Guardian, the largest ship ever built by humans. Through the viewing window, she could see Earth below, blue and beautiful against the blackness of space. Around the planet, 50 ships of various designs formed a protective ring. Some were human vessels with their blocky, practical shapes. Others were the smooth, curved ships of the Concord races. 6 months had passed since the historic vote. The Concord Assembly had agreed to form a joint defensive alliance with Earth by a narrow margin. The decision had changed both human and Concord society forever. Captain Jiwoo stopped beside Lieutenant Subin, who monitored the sensor array. Subin was one of the best sensor technicians in Earth's fleet. Her ability to spot patterns in data had saved lives during previous encounters with hostile forces. Status report, Jiwoo asked. All systems nominal, Captain, Subin replied. The Concord ships have successfully integrated our early warning technology. We now have detection range 3 times greater than before. Jiwoo nodded with satisfaction. The bridge crew was a mix of humans and aliens working side by side. At the navigation station, a Viridian officer with 4 arms operated controls designed for his unique physiology. At communications, a human and a Luminoran shared duties, their different sensory abilities complementing each other. Message from Ambassador Tejo, called the communications officer. The Concord Council sends congratulations on the completion of our defense network. Send our thanks, Jiwoo replied. The past 6 months had been busy ones. Human military experts had traveled to Concord worlds, teaching defense strategies to species that had never needed them before. Concord scientists had shared advanced technology that humans had never imagined. Together, they had built something new, a defensive force that could protect both civilizations. Subin suddenly sat up straight, her eyes fixed on her display. Captain, I'm detecting anomalies at coordinates 227 Mark 43. Jiwoo moved quickly to her side. Show me. The screen displayed a section of space near the outer edge of the solar system. Energy readings spiked in patterns that were all too familiar. Void collective signature confirmed, Subin said, her fingers moving rapidly across the control panel. 3 large vessels and 12 smaller craft. Earlier than expected, Jiwoo noted calmly. Her heart beat faster, but years of training kept her voice steady. Signal the fleet. Deploy as planned. Throughout the Guardian, alert signals sounded. The same was happening on every ship in the fleet. Crew members moved to battle stations with practiced efficiency. All ships reporting ready, Captain, said the communications officer. The Concord vessels are in position, added the tactical officer. Their shield technology is online and integrated with our weapon systems. Jiwoo took her command chair. Move to intercept. Remember your training. This is what we prepared for. The fleet moved with coordinated precision. Human ships took forward positions, their weapons ready. Concord vessels formed a secondary line, their advanced shields protecting both themselves and their allies. On the main screen, the Void Collective ships came into visual range. They were dark, irregular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No communication attempts were answered. No peaceful solutions were possible. The Void Collective had come to consume, as they always did. They're powering weapons, Subin reported. Defensive pattern Alpha, ordered Jiwoo. All ships engage according to protocol. The battle that followed was brief but decisive. The Void ships fired first, their energy weapons lashing out at the human vessels. But the combined shield technology developed by human and Concord engineers held firm. The human ships returned fire with precision. Their weapons had been enhanced with Concord energy-focusing technology, making them far more effective than before. At the same time, Concord vessels deployed energy disruption fields that confused the void ship's sensors. Working together, the Allied fleet surrounded the invaders. 3 void ships were disabled within minutes. The others attempted to retreat but found their escape routes blocked by smaller, faster human craft. The lead void vessel is transmitting an energy signature we haven't seen before, Subin called out. It appears to be some kind of last resort weapon. All ships, increase shield strength, Ju ordered. Focus fire on that vessel before it can deploy. The fleet responded instantly. Concentrated fire from 12 ships struck the lead void vessel. Its dark hull cracked, spilling strange energy into space. A moment later, it exploded in a silent flash of light. The remaining void ships, cut off from their leader, attempted to scatter. None escaped. Within 30 minutes of the first contact, the battle was over. The Void Collective had been defeated without a single Allied casualty. All enemy vessels neutralized, reported the tactical officer. Teams are preparing to board the disabled ships for research purposes. Well done, Ju said to her crew. Send word to Earth and the Concord Council. The defense network performed exactly as designed. 4 months later, Ambassador Tejo stood before the expanded Concord Assembly. The hall was more crowded than before, with a new section added for Earth representatives. The mood was celebratory. News of the successful defense against the Void Collective had spread throughout Concord space. Honored representatives, Tejo began. 1 year ago, I stood before you with warnings of danger. Many doubted. Many feared change. Today, I stand before you with news of victory. The Assembly applauded. Even those who had opposed the alliance now recognized its value. Our joint fleet not only stopped the Void Collective attack, but captured technology that has helped us understand our enemy better. Tejo continued. We now know they have attacked 12 other worlds before targeting Earth and the Concord. None of those worlds had the means to defend themselves. He gestured to the human delegation. Our human allies brought something precious to our partnership: experience. What we once mistook for unnecessary aggression was in fact hard-earned wisdom. The humans taught us that true peace comes not just from the absence of weapons, but from having them, and choosing not to use them unnecessarily. The assembly rose in standing ovation. Human and alien representatives stood side by side, united in purpose. 6 months after the battle, the integration of the two civilizations continued. On the Concord homeworld of Luminaris, a new academy had been established. There, young members of all species learned from each other. In a large training room, human instructor Yunjin watched as children practiced together. Young humans worked alongside Viridian, Luminaran, and other Concord species. Some practiced defensive movements. Others worked on communication and negotiation techniques. Remember, Yunjin told her students, the best victory is the one where no one needs to fight at all. But we train to ensure we have that choice. A small Luminaran child raised her hand. Teacher Yunjin, why must we learn to fight if peace is better? Yunjin smiled. That's an excellent question. We learn to defend ourselves so that others will choose peace instead of conflict. When we are strong, we rarely need to prove it. The child considered this. Like how the void ships ran away when they saw our big fleet. Exactly. They chose that battle because they thought it would be easy. They were wrong. As the children returned to their exercises, Yunjin looked out the window at the 3 suns of Luminaris. The alliance had changed both civilizations. Humans had learned patience and diplomacy from the Concord. The Concord had learned preparedness and resilience from humans. Together, they were stronger than either could have been alone. The stars were safer now, not because of weapons or ships, but because different species had learned from each other. That was the greatest victory of all. The end.